If you've spent years trying to pick the one thing, the perfect niche, the single path that will finally make everything click, this is for you. Because we've all been sold this story that success comes from narrowing down, picking a lane, and staying in it even when it doesn't feel right. But for many of us, this is suffocating. And I'm here to say that there's another way. Because the truth is, you're not scattered if that doesn't work for you. You're just wired for more. And the key isn't to narrow yourself, it's to anchor yourself. So in this video, I'm going to break down why niching down does not equal clarity, and how you can really tune into the wisdom of your body so that you can learn how to anchor rather than narrow yourself so that you can expand. And if you're new here, my name's Kev. I'm an award-winning furniture designer and architect, and I help creatives just like you get out of their heads and into their bodies, right? So let's talk about this lie, right? The dominant cultural myth that clarity comes from cutting parts of ourselves off, from choosing one passion, abandoning the rest, and going deep. And while I am a firm believer of going deep, deep at the cost of sacrificing things that feel true and authentic to you, often does more damage than it does bring out more deep clarity. All roads tend to lead to the sea in the long run, but I think you know what I'm saying, right? The impact is this. The paralysis that you can feel from trying to get it right all of the time. You know, if you're anything like me, you feel so suffocated and frozen because you have so much pressure to have everything planned out, strategized, and not make any mistakes and get it perfect, get it just right, that you rarely actually pursue it passionately, whatever that thing is, right? Because then you have the chronic self-doubt, the looping of all these stories that seep in, that reinforce the pressure to get it right in the first place, but keep you stuck, right? And what happens here is a loss of what I call your creative aliveness, your vitality, your life force, that just openness to life, right? So a little experiment you can run to observe this is just to notice what happens in your body when you try to choose a path, a niche, or whatever it is, right? Notice how you might feel some tightening, a collapse, or even like a deep underlying sense of betrayal to something that you know is deeper inside, right? I want to illustrate that so that you can really feel the cost of this lie, the lie that niching down is where clarity comes from. And I want you to feel it not just in your mind, but like an emotional and somatic experience, right? Because our mind can trick our body into believing anything all day long, but when the body has that feeling that's just a little off, something's not right, this isn't true, you can't deny that, right? You can try to think your way to clarity, but clarity comes from the bottom up, not the top down, right? So here's the shift that is absolutely possible for you, no matter where you are in your creative journey. It's to understand this, that clarity doesn't come from narrowing. In my experience, it comes from anchoring. And here's what I mean by anchoring. It means creating a core thread that holds all of your multi-passionate expressions together without forcing you into a box, right? The super tacky and silly metaphor is a tree, but it's true, so I'm going to use it, right? Your roots are what anchor you. Your trunk is what gives coherence and direction. But the branches are what grow in many directions, right? And what niching down is, picking one path, at least the way that we're told it should look, is cutting off branches that might be vital for the tree's health, right? There are absolutely branches that need to be trimmed, yes, like a healthy tree is a well-kept, well-manicured tree. But as opposed to cutting off branches, I've found that going deeper is often more fruitful. So niching is cutting off. Anchoring is deepening your roots. Deepen your roots, those core things that hold you, that ground you, that inspire you. Those can be your core values that you want to orient your life around. Those can be the principles that fuel your creative expression, the life that you want to live, whatever those things are to you. What happens is we mistake these branches as things that are nice to haves, not need to haves. And so because we love all of these things, we think that we're broken, and so we choose to sacrifice them, and we get a soul-sucking job, or we focus on something just trying to make money, but it doesn't feel right. You get the point, right? I'm here to say that you're not broken for loving many things, for having many interests. It's just nobody taught you how to have a structure that really matches and celebrates how you're built as a multi-passionate creative, right? So this is the shift that we can go from kind of living in creativity as this mind-based game of narrowing to more of this embodied practice of expanding and deepening, right? So how this has worked for me, man, I struggled and still do. I'm not perfect. Just want to be clear about that. I struggled for so long with feeling so fragmented. I had all these different passions and all these different boxes. And the way that I was relating to them was like they were all separate parts of me. I love building surfboards, but that doesn't feel right. That feels like more of a really sacred sort of hobby. I don't want to make that a business, but it feels so good to be building that big of stuff. But I really love metalworking, but that doesn't really have the impact that I want. But I love writing, and that has the impact, but how do I make the money? And I had these in all different boxes. And so I was giving like 30% of myself to architecture, 30% to metalworking, 30% to writing, and 10% to whatever else I just happened to be into. And that's the flaw, is thinking that I'm split in the first place, that designer Kev isn't also writer poet Kev, that YouTube Kev also isn't community Kev. And for me, it was realizing, what is the thread that actually connects them all? And where am I creating separation? Where am I truly believing that these can't all be one and the same? They can't all be symbiotic. They can't all be harmonious. And I was realizing I was forcing them all to be different. I had different names for every single endeavor, and I kept them. It was like, the classic example of the kid who doesn't want the peas to touch the mashed potatoes or the corn to be in the whatever, I was like keeping everything separate. But then I realized, you know what? I am the offering to the world. It's my unique presence, depth, and embodiment that is unique to me. The way that I hold myself, the way that I speak, the way that I laugh, the way that I breathe, the way that I tap into a deep power inside of my gut, my belly, and my core, and create from that place. So it doesn't matter what I do, it's how I do it. And then I consolidated all of these things into just me, under my name, one roof, and things began to expand. I no longer felt as separate and fragmented. People from these worlds would cross-pollinate, like, hey, I found you through your writing, but I really would love for you to design my tasting room. Or like, hey, I know you from surfing, but I'm really, really interested in men's work. How can I get involved? And all of this started to deepen and widen and broaden in ways that I couldn't imagine. And this is just me. There's been so many people I've helped that have realized that their whole life they have been keeping these parts of themselves separate, when all they needed to do was trust, go deeper, and realize the deeper I go, the more that everything will naturally consolidate and come from that same cohesive core, which is you, which is how you fucking impact the world. So, what that means for you is find your creative through line, the deeper why or essence that connects you and your passions to the world around you. When you have that deep why, when you have that through line, whatever that is, go watch my video on the impossible goal, because that'll help you structure what it means to have a deeper why, I am here to open the hearts of 10,000 creatives so that they can feel more confident and embodied in sharing their gifts. Whatever that is, right? Let your work orbit around that core message, not just the single modality, not just the I create sexy metalworks because that's what I love. Sure, but what's the deep message? I want to make the world a more beautiful place. And I can do that through design, I can do that through writing, I can do that through my everyday interactions, whatever it is, right? And then from there, you see how you can design your creative ecosystem more like a constellation, right? Like, it's great to have a North Star, but you don't just need a star. You are a constellation, so let your ecosystem be like that, you know? I'm a firm believer in having like such a deep connection to one thing, if that's you, and to create containers for exploring that. If you're multi-passionate, so that you know that for the next 6 months, I'm going to pursue this because it feels alive. I'm not going to abandon these other things. But know that your pursuits are like ecosystems. How can my deepening of this path also impact the world around me and my other passions, right? And lastly, this is really important to know, you know, this is really important for you to really get it so you can really deeply embody the shift, is people might not understand at first, especially if you're trying to make this into an offering or a business, and that's okay. But realize that clarity comes from your embodiment, not from your overthinking about how to get it right. And for me, I found that the second I stop waiting for permission to be all of who I am, whole and complete, that's when things tend to magnetize to me and unfold in a beautiful way. Because your coherence isn't going to come from cutting parts of you off. It's going to come from you grounding, centering, going deeper so that they all can kind of come home and they all have more fertile soil to grow from. So my challenge to you is, what would happen if you stopped trying to choose one thing and just started anchoring into your deeper essence and why as a creative now? You don't need to niche down. You just need to anchor in the core values of who you are and create from depth, not pressure. And if you want help going deep, I invite you to check out the Embodied Creator Toolkit. The link's in the description below. And be sure to sign up for my free newsletter because that's a great resource to help you go deeper. And subscribe because like 86% of you aren't subscribed. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.